Yo, it's called the City of Brotherly Love. Kyle and I are in Philadelphia today, working on ASOTUCON, but we're still talking about EVs and balancing budgets and Brad Pitt racing Formula One.
Everywhere I go, the people really want to know
Yeah.
who I is and who I be. They stop
I don't know a lot about Formula One, but what I do know is that Brad Pitt looks like a Formula One driver.
He really does. And he's short enough to be one too, because they're all like a little bit short, a little bit scrawny, but like stocked up because they got to have like that thick neck to be able to handle all the bouncing back and forth things. So he's locked in. He's ready to go.
You know so much more than I do about Formula One.
Man, we got the backward. If you're not watching the video, if you listen to it, we got the hats on backwards today.
Something going on today.
There was something where we felt like it needed, a lot of times what we get to is like the end of a day on Friday, and we recognize that there's this intentionality and this grit that has to happen. And since we're here, we're in Philly. There's an extra grit that's happening today around the ASOTU world.
And Adrian, I feel like Rocky. I don't know if he ever wore a hat backwards. I got to find out if there's a video clip like that.
That would be
but
sweet.
Here's it. No, the hat kind of oh, he did. Duh.
He wore a hat backwards all the time.
No, the movie Over the Top.
Oh,
remember, it was the arm wrestler. He flipped the
Yes.
switch when the hat went backwards. I knew there was something in there.
That's it.
The hat goes.
There you
It's been going backwards more and more. I walked in the other day. My hat was backwards when I walked in, and Danielle was like, "Oh, it's like that already."
Oh, it's like that. We already have
it is kind of like it's work mode. So, we are in Philly today. We're scoping out the venue for ASOTUCON. Isaac, roll the video of ASOTU Subaru. We are going to the grand opening of this beautiful Subaru store, ASOTU Subaru in the city of Philadelphia. Look at that atrium overlooking the cityscape, 100 service bays, room for a bunch of inventory when the industry decides it can make some inventory. But that's where our opening reception is going to be for ASOTUCON.
What a novel idea. So you're telling me that we're going to have dealers go to a conference and actually be at a dealership? Wow.
Novel. I know that Manila painted, boxed in workshop rooms are inspiring for most people.
I was really hoping for some of those curly. I wonder if Mr. C can get some of those curly Q carpet squares so you really feel like you're in a conference room.
So look, the event's going to start on the opening night and reception in this beautiful facility with food and drinks. It's actually on September 11th. We're going to do some charitable things, and it's going to be a memorable night in a dealership. Touch and feel the latest technology. So we're excited to be there this evening. We're going there tonight. I think it starts at 6:30. And who knows who we'll meet there? Maybe Sylvester Stallone will be there. I don't know. If he showed up for anybody, it'd be someone from Mr. C. What's up, Mr. C? You're going to sing.
I came for the dealership party. Yo, Mr. C.
That's going to happen. We'll get him out. I won't be surprised if Mr. Sioka had the Rocky statue transported to the front of his building just for this event.
Sideways.
So we're excited. We're going to be announcing
the backward hat. It does a thing to us.
It's over. It is over. We're going to be announcing a ton about ASOTUCON. This trip today is going to really button down a lot of details, right? There are multiple hotels we're reserving blocks at. One of them is a brand new casino hotel near the venue. It's owned by the same company, Xfinity Live. So we're excited to get in there and see what's up. But, we got to talk a little news and a little auto business because everyone can't be so excited about being in Philly because you're probably not here. We're here. So first story.
Speaking of being of somewhere where you're not.
Stop.
Segue.
Time.
Good. Oh, I triggered it too early.
Double trigger. Oh, what a mess. But no, one place where the majority of the dealers that listen to this podcast are the industry partners, where we're mostly in North America. We're talking a little bit of European Union, of which, just as a note, the UK is not a part of, but the majority of Europe is a part of, has voted recently to everyone's have it. If you're listening to this podcast and you might want to have a seat, right? But they voted to ban sales of gasoline or internal combustion cars, 100% internal combustion cars by
the year
2035.
It's nice of them to give themselves an extra 5 years.
5 years.
Just to make sure most of them will be out of office by then.
Yeah, this is the shocking stat to me. And I think this is similar in the US. And I think that whenever you do this type of major change implemented from a legal standpoint, from a government standpoint, impacting this large of an industry, the auto industry, it says, plays a vital role in Europe's economy, accounting for 7% of gross domestic product and supporting 14.6 million jobs in the region.
That's a lot of jobs.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of money. And when you're talking about overturning that in just 12 years to a totally new business model, a totally new acquisition of parts, products, services, sales models,
totally untested energy source.
It just kind of blows my mind.
They have a little bit of things. You know, a lot of things in Europe blow my mind. I wish you get Ben Stock on the call. He's spent a lot of time in Europe lately. He's probably got some insight into this. Let's bring him on the show. No, I wish he was queued up, ready to come.
Oh, that would have been sick. That would have been so solid.
He's not here today. I mean, a lot of US dealers and the industry, right? We look to Europe as like a little predecessor of what could potentially happen here. We've been looking at it as far as, you know, the direct to consumer sales model. We see, some manufacturers and Mercedes saying like, hey, all franchise contracts are going to be canceled, right? We know that that's a lot different in the US. The laws are different. However, right, looking to this and saying like, wow, this is how it could potentially go, or at least lean in that direction. Now, this is not law yet, right? There's a vote coming, so it could get struck down. But you know what it's like when things end up on the ballot, it actually makes everyone like pay a lot more attention and get a lot more serious about it. So this is just one of those things where it's on the ballot, it's getting voted for. If you never thought it'd be possible, well, guess what? It's on the ballot now. So hey, EVs shaking a lot more up, you know, I mean, just dominating so much conversation. It's just, you can't get away from it, and we shouldn't. We should dig into it. But speaking about EVs and making financial sense in one way or another.
Stop. Segue.
Time. I'll let it play. Keep my hands off the trigger pad. Don't want to stop it midway. So a recent article came out saying electric cars finally make financial sense. So reading from the article that is linked up in the show notes, for instance, the EPA estimates it will cost around $2,900 a year for the average American to fuel a 2022 BMW 430 sedan. The estimated cost to fuel it, an i4 with eDrive 40, which is the same car but powered by electric, is about $600 a year, which is 1/5 of the cost. So, you know, they're like,
and that's in year one. And so the rest, and so that's in 1 year, right? So the rest of the story is the difference in price, at least in the BMW, between the similar model in the internal combustion, the ICE vehicle, and the EV vehicle is about 10 grand. Now, BMW and other manufacturers still have the ability to allow their customers have the ability to acquire the tax refund, which is about
$7,500,
right? And so right now you're recovering that cost in year one. Now Tesla, GM have an interesting thing where they don't have the ability to recover a cost of that type of variant. So there are some manufacturers that are starting to not realize that because of the lack of access to the tax credit.
What was the amount? 200,000 vehicles? What was it?
It was 750,000 deliveries, I think, right?
Okay. Yeah. So if you're not following along, the tax credit that was initially put in place had a limitation on how many vehicles you could claim the credit on. That means the people that got an early start on EVs, right, they started racking up units that claim the credit. So for instance, Tesla, it's like, hey, you're done. Who's the other one that's almost done?
GM, I think, is already
right.
They've already passed it, right? Sorry, 200,000 qualifying vehicles. So both of them have passed it because of their current EV sales.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot here. And, you know, a lot of consumers are starting to pay more attention to the difference, especially when gas prices, we talked about this the other day, $5 on average, $6, $7 in some areas, right? The balance starts to shift a lot. And you think like that the cost of the vehicle, does it offset the cost of the fuel? And then there's like, well, how long is the fuel going to stay this high? I remember thinking like during the Gulf War, like fuel was up to almost $5 a gallon. And I was like, it's never going back down, but it did. It ended up going back down to like $1.30. Also the cost of electricity staying where it's at is also another, I mean, supply and demand basic, right? When all this new electricity is needed and there's not supply, that cost could change. But
Well,
I
like
mean,
think about it. If you go 50%, you go from $3,000 a year in gas prices to $1,500 a year in gas prices, right? I mean, that's a massive difference that we've discovered in 2 months. So saying
yeah.
that the long-term viability of the financial benefit of an EV is there. It's only there for a small market time, and I'm guessing that there's going to be some reconciliation in overall gas prices. So I think here's the big takeaway, right, for me, and this is the takeaway from actually the European Union article and this article, is that your people should be educated enough to have this conversation with everybody
Consumers.
that walks through the showroom, that
Oh,
calls,
so good.
because here's the thing, these are the new. It used to be automotive news was like you would only find it in automotive news sources, right? But automotive news, because of EVs, has come to the forefront. So you see it in the morning news. You see it in
Tech news.
every news source is driving some sort of automotive news article on a daily basis, and it typically has to do with EVs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what consumers are getting in their regular drip feeds, which means our teams, whether it be industry partners or dealers, should be competent enough to have the discussions around what's happening real time, because customers are looking for that answer. They're looking for the answers to the questions. Actually, this is interesting. We had a conversation with someone, maybe it was Brian Pash, just saying like customers would come into dealerships mainly for so long just to figure out the option packages on a car, right?
Right.
That's a basic thing that they need support with when purchasing a new car, because the information is hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's hard to make sense of.
So think about like the way that people are being inundated with news on EVs, NFT, blockchain, right? A Web3, metaverse, and the variance of information that they're trying to like download and then offload into decision making. Like, we should be a resource as an industry to make sure that there's a connection point to purchasing.
Yeah, I think that's advice that goes across all points of conversation, but paying attention to the popular conversation. These articles that we're talking about, like, there are thousands and probably millions of people seeing on a regular basis.
Yes.
So whether it's true or not, whether it's the most relevant thing or not, guess what? It gets planted in their psyche and it's in there. Maybe they don't bring it out, but it's in there. So look, that's one of the reasons we do the show. It's one of the reasons we do the email, right? Is to get the conversation thread going throughout the dealership, not just the GM's office or the sales manager's office, but if you're a salesperson, if you're a BDC rep, if you're a service advisor, if you're a technician, these are the things that are in your consumer's head. So even just having your mind around it, be able to say, oh yeah, I saw that article. I heard a story about that. And here's some things that really lead me to question that, right? And guide them through the conversation, or at least let them know that there's some like formed thought behind it. It's going to just help you connect. Like, just think of a sales perspective,
right?
If you can empathize with the customer, you're automatically in a better position to guide them to the solution. They start to trust you immediately.
So here's the thing. Not everybody can communicate that across the dealership. So if you're listening to this, if you're paying attention to the newsletter, please share it. Like, that's, it's a caring, like, we literally, someone said this to me yesterday. They said, man, it was on Pitch Tank. And they said, after Pitch Tank, they just said, I appreciate the way in which you are just willing to give back to all of the participants on Pitch Tank. And we are so dedicated, Paul and I, to this desire to see the automotive industry be like brought together, educated from every single person. And it is that desire that drives us to give these takeaways, to give these actionable insights every day. And so we're just imploring you, like, bring more people to the table. Bring them to the table, you know?
Absolutely.
And whether it be our table or someone else's, like, find a table to sit and eat around.
The bigger table, right? The bigger table of conversation. And since you're here and you're listening and you're reading, thank you very much. We've been using this metaphor a lot lately. It just kind of came out during one of the meetings we've been having. And it's basically this. We've been rubbing sticks together for a really long time. Like, literally, it's been much longer than the last few months. And we've been making a lot of smoke. But we believe that the people in this community, and we're starting to see nuances of it with the ASOTUCON coming up and the growing audience, like, we're like, you're about to see some fire. You're about to see some fire. So, all right, last story today before we leave you and get rolling through the city of Philadelphia. Brad Pitt is to star in a Formula One movie on Apple. Apple purchased these rights, and they're making a star about Formula One driver. Basically, reading from the Front Office Sports article, the 58-year-old Pitt will play an F1 driver who comes out of retirement to race alongside a rookie driver and other top drivers in the sport. It's the comeback story, right? Like old dog was like, let me get back in there because I got to teach the young dogs. I love that.
It's so interesting to me because just 4 and 5 years ago, this was a NASCAR movie, right? But the power of brand build, the power of Netflix has Apple going, let me drop some serious dime on Brad Pitt in none other than an F1 movie. That's the power of brand, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and Brad Pitt, like, look, you're gonna watch a Brad Pitt movie. Just gonna watch it, right? That's Apple. You're gonna watch it. If you remember, it's not his first.
Be some power movie associated with really fast cars. There it is.
Yeah. The best F1. I don't know. Was it F1? The scene in Iron Man 2 when the guy came out with the whips and cut his car in half. Do you remember that? Oh man, I wish we had it queued up.
I don't think.
Is it Indy? I think it was F1.
Maybe an Indy car.
We're gonna find the answer to this because everybody really wants to know.
Do some
but if you remember, Brad Pitt won Best Actor. He was a nominee for Best Actor for his role as Billy Bean in the movie about the Oakland A's, right? And he did great. It was called Moneyball, and he did great. So he's kind of got like a great feel for that the sports, like the tension, and like we'll just see. It's been a while since I've seen Brad Pitt in a good movie.
It was Iron Man 2. I look at Isaac coming in strong.
He wasn't. It was Iron Man. Brad Pitt wasn't in that, but Iron Man 2, and it was F1. So I don't know. We'll have to get that for you. But for today, like we said, go out there and share this content with somebody else. When you learn something about EVs, share it with someone else. Get your dealership together so they can talk and so they can, in the end, do one thing: serve other people.